Welcome everyone to Howling Coyote, and it's my pleasure to have Moffat Osoro with me today. And I came across Moffat on LinkedIn and found out more about him and the work that he's been doing in Nairobi, Kenya. And I thought that people in the US and Maine in particular would be really interested to hear more about him. And so I wanted to invite you, Moffat, to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you and how you got involved in the work that you're doing. And we'll just take it from there. We'll have a conversation.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm so happy to be here this evening. It's 6 o'clock Nairobi time. As you had indicated, we are 7 now. It's going to the afternoon. It's 11 your time.
Yes.
And my name's Moffat Osoro. I come from Kenya, Nairobi, and I'm the founder of Fremo Medical and Birth Center. This is a center that is running in the outskirts of Nairobi, and it's run in the informal settlement. I think when people do not understand maybe what it means to be an informal settlement, in other words, it's like a slum.
Mm.
And I think when you talk about slum, it's a big challenge because when I look at the statistics around here, when we look at the reports that are compiled by the United Nations, the World Bank, they say the people in this community, most of them survive below the dollar per day. So you can imagine its poverty at its highest. So there are so many challenges such a people will go through. I moved to this neighborhood quite some years ago, and I was a victim of poor medical practice because I fell sick and I was trying to look for a place that can give me treatment. And when I moved from one clinic to another, because you realized trying to set up such a facility with the economically disadvantaged environment, it comes with a price. So you realize people are trying to bargain. You can find even quacks trying to take advantage of the loopholes, and then they put themselves as medics. And who loses is the common people and the vulnerable people who are subjected to poverty. So it's at this point, I was not, I was in administration by then. So the idea of me going to the medical world was not known at that particular point. And this kind of motivated me to see how I can be part of the solution. And I gave myself a promise and to my God that when I get out there, I'll be able to be part of the solution. And when I was making this promise, I done it because I moved from one clinic to another in vain. And my brother was an intern medical student, what we call a resident clinical officer. He was winding his internship, and I called him and I say to him, I'm losing it. And I call him to come back and look at me. He came. I remember him administering some antibiotics IV. And while he was doing this, I gave him a promise. I said, when I get better, you and I are going to do this. We're going to save people by making sure we provide proper medical care in this community. And that's how it started. Fast forward, a few months later, I committed myself trying to marshal resources to have this center. But since at that time, I didn't have enough of the money, I managed to get $1,000 at that particular time to be able to start a small medical clinic. But my brother, Fred, who was supposed to accompany me at that particular time, he had got an assignment and he felt that he was to go and get more experience and then probably come back. And he was trying to slow me down, but I felt like if I slow down, many people are going to die. So I started the clinic, And then it started well with the challenges. I was moving up and down. I was trying to look for resources. I was trying to look for medical personnel, but eventually it came to being. Now, maternal care became also an issue when my wife got pregnant, and she got to give a baby. At that 7 weeks, she developed some blood pressure, and the medical at our facility could not manage that because we were starting, and they advised us to go to a national referral hospital for further management. And when I say that, most hospitals have copied the Western culture of those practices: medicalization, induction, forced cesareans, improper care, negligence, and others. So I became again a recipient of that when I went to this hospital. The first thing they did was to chase me away, and they told me to come the following day. When I came during visiting hours, I was told my wife has not progressed at all, but she was saying that she was in pain. They induced her at 37 weeks, but the induction did not give any progress. So 2 days later, it picked up after trying 3 times. Eventually, they're increasing the micrograms of the medication they call misoprostol that is used for induction. And then eventually, the labor pains peaked. But at this point, I was at home, and she was calling me every minute because she was left alone managing her labor. At some point, she felt she was dying. Remember, this is a woman's first baby. She's away from the parents. And our culture, traditionally, where I come from, where culture is recognized, the senior members, the women, the aunts, the mothers are involved in the birthing process. They surround these women with love and care. And we are told the senior women in the community understand the birthing process. A mother herself understands her daughter. And many times in my culture, women, when they got pregnant, they were sent back to their mothers who understand their body and how to manage through labor. And I can tell this because when I was growing up in the countryside, I can tell you I never saw cesarean. But when I came to the city, it was the Western kind of culture. So my wife was discharged. At this point, I pinned down and they wanted to change the course of maternity in this community. Luckily, Mother Nature conspires when you want to do something for people, for humanity. You're never alone. If you conceive it and you are genuine and you look at the people as the recipients of this, not yourself, you are selfless, it's going to happen. The reason why I'm saying this, with the circumstances I was in, even when I had conceived this dream, it was almost impossible because the resources were murky. One point, I had these volunteers who travels Kenya to come and volunteer in a neighborhood. And they heard about Frimo and they walked in. We were not busy for them to help, but anyway, I had to share them my dream. And one of them left the country. She was coming from Australia and went back home and narrated the story in one of the magazines of a young guy in Nairobi who didn't have a medical background, but had wanted to change the course of maternal care in his community. And this message reached all of Australia, but it reached one midwife who had wanted to come to Africa to help change the birthing culture in the community. Not that she felt that this was to be done, but from nowhere, she would come to say that when she was a young girl in midwifery school, she loved to touch black babies. And I think one time she felt like she'll be involved in Africa with all the reports that comes in Africa to come and be part of the care. So she reached me directly and she read this. And from there, we were able to communicate. And she asked me the challenges I had. And I said, I had the challenges of resources, and I wanted somebody to come here as a professional midwife to be able to lay down the protocols, the pillar and the model of midwifery care. And that's how Vicky Chan got her way to Nairobi. And at that point, she was able to fundraise 10,000 US dollars that we came and improved the care at our community. And from there, it's been that I think she arrived here in May 2011. We had a conference, and by the time my brother's not come, but I had called him because we had and we wanted him to add the medical team as I was trying to coordinate other activities of managerial or duties. So this is where it all started. So this is what we discussed. We realized how my wife was treated. This is what our women were receiving. Women were left to birth alone. Women were not given consent when medical was given to them. Not even their husband has been asked permission. If the labor did not progress as the doctors wanted, it is the doctor will decide if this woman will need immediate intervention or be taken for cesarean. Women were abused. I can tell you, I know of centers where women are beaten, women are scolded, vulgar language is used, they're treated as objects, not human beings. And when we saw this, we wanted to change it for the women who are coming for care at our center. So the pillars involved, we wanted to give women safety. And I can tell you, for the more than 10 years I've been here, we've never had a maternal death. Secondly, the neonatal deaths, they can come, but they are at the lowest. And then when you look at the cesarean rates, they are the lowest because of the women we birth here, we only have a 4% cesarean rates. And because we don't have a theater here, these are the women we transfer to a designated Faro National Hospital, where we work closely. When we give women time, we give natural labor the process. Our midwife are qualified, they are experienced, they know when to use their intuition, they listen to their instincts, they monitor the mother closely. But when they feel that these women need transfer, it's justified. And we tell these women at this point, you are going to another level. So we tell them, cesarean might happen to save you and your baby because we've done with them the best we can, not hurrying you, not forcing you, not coercing you, not manipulating you, not scolding you, but after giving all the love, the support, the opportunity and the autonomy to birth by yourself to be able to get to the referral hospital. And I can tell you, even when we refer these women, we have the best outcomes because they can tell you how they were treated because the other hospital know that this center framework stands for this. And eventually we need our put our women were treated at the other side. So it's been outstanding, it's been stunning, and I can vividly say that I do believe that when women are given a chance, all these problems that we see in the world today, they are a result of improper care. When our women are not given love, when they are not supported during pregnancy, they are not given resources, they are not given informed choices. Whatever their background, even if they are depressed, stressed, or coming with burdens, we know they need to be counseled, listened to, so that they are at peace where their babies. And eventually, a mother who is left, if they propagate the same to their unborn child, and afterwards, when they see these little ones born and continue doing the same, the world will be a better place for all of us.
Indeed. And you remind me, once upon a time, some years ago, I was involved with midwives and doing out of hospital births and birth center births, and we had, I think our cesarean rate was around 4% also. It was it was nothing like what I see in the large hospitals here in Maine, which um, can go over 40%. And you know, you just want to say, I don't think nature's that stupid. I think that probably the human race would have died out if that many cesareans were really needed. And I think it's wonderful. I mean, it's exciting that you're building this sort of um, woman-centered care um, for your people, for the people
Mhm.
in the neighborhood, and um,
Mhm.
and it just I wish we were doing more of that here in the United States. Um, how how have the physicians in the hospital reacted to what you're doing? Have they put up any obstacles or roadblocks for you?
Well, I think we find it so difficult if we are dealing with new staffing who have seen this care and they feel that that's the culture that it should be embraced and accepted. But we know that I know we have been also the laughing stock of the other hospitals. If they felt that this woman would require transfer, at they feel it's overstayed. But what they don't know, it's giving these women to give normal birthing process a chance. Because if you don't give it, you're going to interfere. And when I tell about interference bringing unnecessary intervention, which eventually leads to complication, which puts these women out of the normal process. You know, the human biology, the physiological process during birth was created and designed for the normal process. But also, when we look at science, science also came in to help when the normal had failed, not the other way around. That when we feel, no, we have to be intuitive. We have to use instinctives, and we have to show all this love to make sure that we are not putting an obstacle to the normal process, so that we can be quick. And I've seen where even here, when you look at the big hospitals, they are no less what happens in the West. When you read local newspapers that maybe carry story of obstetricians, sometimes you wonder where a woman will come and tell you how they were forced to have a cesarean. Some women will be crying, looking for a place for a natural birth. Our center is Googled more than any center in Nairobi for women who are running away from the second cesarean. 3 years ago, before COVID, we had the opportunity to host women who had to share their stories about their experience. And I can tell you, it was the most emotional conference I ever participated, and I never want, because women narrated story after story, why they were taken for cesarean, why they want to come here, why they think they were taken advantage of it, and why by all means they would want a normal birthing process. So the physician, or as you have asked the physician, some of them, they can look at you, they don't like a normal birth. And you know, sometimes if they have normal births, they're not going to have their dollars. because if normal births gets a chance, most of them be like, I'm gonna get my cesarean. And that it's quite expensive. Here in Nairobi, a big hospital for a cesarean will cost over $2,000. And they know they can do it within minutes and go for. I had a story of a woman who was sharing her story, how the doctor who was taking care of her was realized that she had an assignment in another hospital. And this woman had labored only 3 hours. And she was told it's a complication. And she was rushed for cesarean for the doctor to stop taking care of her to go to another, probably cesarean. So I think even some of the obstetrician is not something they want to hear. But I cannot say for all. There are few I know, including Dr. Maranga, who has been outstanding, who I consult over time to share such as stories of normal birth in our facility.
Mm. It's good to know that you have some supporters. I'm sure that helps a great deal. Are there are there traditional indigenous practices that are being brought into the midwifery care from?
Well, yeah, thank you for that. And I was raised in the countryside. My grandmother passed this year in February. She was 96. She had given birth all her 13 children at home who are surviving. Our sisters, one is 94, she had 14 at home. Our other sister, the youngest, she's 90. They are surviving. But also in my case, my mother, who I'm the sixth born of our 8 children, I was born at home. And my mother will tell you that she gave birth or our babies at home. And it does, if you talk about home births in some places, they are associated with dangerous care. When we talk of home births in our indigenous culture, we are talking of experienced midwives. If you look at the elephant family, the elephants have their midwives. So when an elephant is giving birth, the elephants have identified in the herd those elephants that are midwives, and they do the process. They didn't know what school. I mean, they know, and they take care of it. In my culture, there were women who were trained. My mama, sometimes when I grew up, my mama would run and help the women in the community, and the outcomes was astounding. I can tell you, I grew in the countryside for 17 years. I can tell you, I had known only one woman who had a cesarean. Now, here at the center, we have involved, we are talking about the culture. One of the culture is to involve the women from the community. We have what we call a prenatal care circles, where we bring women to sit in a circle and share their stories and their care and their culture. So it's just ended today because we had it 2 p.m. this afternoon and every other Wednesday. And this is an informal setting. Let me say this. Traditionally, the pregnant women from the community will come around a big tree and talk to the elderly woman who was experienced in this. And they'll share to them about how they birthed, the challenges, how they eat, and if there is any way they can dissuade any complication that will come along the way when they are birthing. And we took that by telling the women, come at the center, let's go traditional, let us sit in a circle, let us share the experiences, let us see what's happening. So the idea of having this care tradition in the countryside, even when we are in the city, we practice it very well, and it's been going on well. Secondly, we invite the support in the bathroom. When these women are coming to bath, they are surrounded by loved ones. When you go to the countryside, senior women were involved. They were able to encourage these women emotionally. They'll talk to them the position and the kind of noises they'll tell them so that they can progress fast, or so that they cannot delay to distress the baby. So there are some sounds like the traditional women will tell you, breathe in, breathe out. When they are pushing, they are told to scream in a very comfortable way. We also have a pathing stool that was used in traditionally. In hospitals, they have these obstetric beds, and some midwife will tell you that's a chin chamber for women. They go putting their hands like this, their legs apart, and they're surrendering to the doctor. So there's nothing they're saying. And the woman is like strained in that chamber torture bed. And then by the time she's done, it's like her spine is broken. But here we tell the women, you have all the autonomy. You can squat, you can sit, you can stand, you can lean on your partner, okay? You can use a bathing stool. And this is what our people did. And over the years, is the wisdom that was almost lost in the pathing culture in this country that we are trying to look and see how our great grandmothers fared, and the wisdom we were trying to lose in the process of trying to produce the Western culture that has brought all these high cesarean rates.
Indeed, indeed. And I wondered, I confess that I don't know very much about Kenya, and
Mhm.
most people in the US know too little about Africa, and
Mhm.
I'm probably one of them, and for that I apologize. But I wondered if you could tell us a little bit about the indigenous people of Kenya, the, the various tribes and languages, and perhaps starting with your people, and just give us an
Oh,
overview so we're better
okay.
educated, because we're stupid
Oh,
Americans.
so thank you very much. So Kenya is a beautiful country, and I think it's known for its wildlife. It's located in the east part of the continent. It's in East Africa, and it's known for its wildlife. When you hear of Masai Mara, the Pitos and others, it's located in our country. We have Mombasa, the beautiful coast. But when you look at when I look at the indigenous, I'm talking about the 42 tribes. We have 42 tribes, and each one of them has its own language. So to put it, we have what we call the Bantu, the Nilotes, and the Cushites. So there are big tribes so the Nilotes, the Cushites, and the Bantus. But when you break them, there are 42 tribes. I come from the Kisi tribe. It's located in the western part of the country. So in total, Kenya has 50 million people. And of these 50 million people, places, most of the people, like Nairobi is the capital city of the country, and our care is done the city, which has been a challenge of trying to copy the Western culture of birth. And that's where we are coming in, trying to talk to people, go back where we are. Listen, when you look at when we were colonized, the colonizers came and told us our culture was outdated. It should not be practiced. And because we were coerced, people embraced that. But over the years, we have seen our people almost lost what was beautiful. And in this case, I'm trying to take it, my parents were born before the colonists came, and you see, they used the traditional culture of birthing process, and the outcomes were outstanding. They were stunning. But if I look at my age mates, they feel that going to a posh hospitals, least getting the care of an obstetrician who tells you what to do is the easiest. So our people are this culture that add wisdom. I give you another example. The other day, 2 years ago, my at the center we have a medical department in the maternity department that we call birthing center. So here at the medical department, we have doctors who diagnose and treat patients. So patients who are coming from the settlements can get treatment of whatever diagnosis the doctor identified. But I had this, my mother, she's 65, she's a traditional herbalist. And my mother gives us up medicine. She does not use conventional medicine at all. But you see, she stays 300 kilometers away from the city. Now, the reason why I'm sharing this is when 2 years ago, as I was saying, my youngest boy, Bradley, got very sick. And then these doctors tried to give her all the medications and the antibiotics. My baby was closing. Mama calls me because I had to talk to Mama every day. And Mama calls me and she said, bring me that boy. And then my wife packed the bags and went to my mother in the village. I can tell you, my mama called me 2 days later and told me, young man, my grandboy was dying. So she gave all the traditional herbs, and my baby who had stayed in hospital for 2 weeks. survived. And I can tell you, I have doctors here at the center who have been trained. Uh, 6 months ago, my mother was visiting, and one of the midwives, his son, they are married. One is a doctor, and another one is midwife. They worked at the center. Their baby fell sick, and they tried to pump all these antibiotics and everything, and they lost it. And then they come and ask me, "We are losing." I said, "Mama is in town. Go and see her." Mama went and um, gave her medication, the traditional herbs. The baby was well within 2 days. So what I'm trying to do, because my mother expires, is to establish a garden, which comes at a cost. I'm looking where I can fundraise money because it's very expensive to have this land in the city. I want, before my mama grow old, to have an apple garden and then plant all these trees. Let her pass it over and my kids and my midwives and my doctors, so that we can be able to do that. So in our facility, most of our care of the babies, more especially one of our midwives and doctors, most of them, my mama does it very well for them.
Wonderful. You know that um, here in Maine, I work for Wabanaki Public Health and Wellness, which serves the 5 tribes of Maine. And one of the projects that our organization is doing is um, we were able to acquire um, a large piece of land um, on the Penobscot River, um, which is one of our major rivers. And we have a medicine garden that we've created to raise all the traditional herbal medicines and to bring people's awareness to traditional herbal medicine as an option. And it's kind of exciting to hear you talk about what you're doing because it seems, I suspect this is going on all over the world, that this sort of Eurocentric colonization process is slowly being pushed back, I think. Um,
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
yeah, and and it's wonderful to hear about your 90-year-old grandmothers who obviously got to be over 90 years old without the benefit of Eurocentric medicine. They and I imagine that they must have lived a healthy lifestyle in the country with with native foods and medicines and sunlight and all the things that don't always exist in the cities.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So, how much, how, on the medical side of the clinic, what's the balance between the conventional Eurocentric medicine and the traditional um, African medicine?
Well, I think it would have been better if our people could not have been manipulated. I think they are part of our people who still believes that the Western culture is superior to their own culture. That is the biggest impediment I see here. Because I have seen cases where a local will come for treatment, and when you try to tell them go to the traditional medicine, they're like, "What are you talking about? Yeah, that's stupid. How in this era will you even think of that?" They think you're foolish. You are thinking archaic, and I think the biggest challenge is could have been better. And when you see, sometimes I I had this story this afternoon. when I went to the satellite center we have, and the doctor was telling me that two babies were brought in last night dead, and their parents were carrying bags of medicines, the conventional medicines. And in the process of pumping this antibiotic, this is cough syrup and all that, the baby succumbed. So we could have done it better, but the biggest is now even the culture of some of our people have been manipulated even to this era, not enlightened, to feel that when they go conventional medicines, they are enlightened, they are superior, and is the best thing to happen in modern science. So I think the one that can go is almost a third, but how I wish, because my mother, when my three kids go for holiday, my mother feeds them and gives them the preventive apple medicine. When my baby gets out of the village, you can be rest assured they can survive 3 more years without any sickness. And that tells it. And I think because the only challenge I can feel and I can vulnerably say is lack of resources. This thing with the influence I have, I can be able to work my team and change the course of everything, because we ourselves are the story. We have the rich experience, how it's worked, and how it can be done better. Yes.
Mm. Yeah, and I think we have a similar problem here in that there, well, more than 200 years of oppression and colonization, and people managed their trauma with alcohol. I mean, many people did, and then more recently with opiates, with heroin and um, but it's all it's part of a culture of fast medicine that that they want it to work quickly, and they believe that the Eurocentric medicine is fast and powerful, and that the slow medicine, the herbs and the healthy lifestyle and walking and being out in the sunlight, that it's weak medicine. and
Mhm.
and so I mean what I encounter, you know working um, with many of the people who have been deeply traumatized, is that they keep looking for the perfect pills, that will make them feel great, and and they're not really happy to hear that that rarely happens.
Mhm.
That pills are not going to make you feel great. I mean, you know, I won't say that they don't ever improve things, because sometimes they do, but it's the slow medicine that makes you feel great. And I wonder
Mhm.
if you experience anything similar among the population that you serve.
Well, I think when you look at the challenges of communities like ours, um, it's like in the US. So the slums, like what the projects earlier on in the US, it's what you used to call the projects. And youths are taking a shortcut to solve their problems, to get to do all these things, to think that they are going to sleep well, and they find themselves in drugs. I had to enroll psychology, and one of the reasons I did is to address the trauma, the challenges that comes with these problems. I can tell you, I've seen even women coming for care who were once smoking. At one time, I had this woman who was in labor, and she was asking for a drink, a peer to drink. when she was in labor. And she said that if we are not going to provide her, she was going to sue us. So it's felt in this community. It's one of the biggest challenges that is affecting the youth. And you see, even the women of reproductive age are not left either. It's no secret, like this evening, if you walk down the street, you'll find women pregnant and they're drunk. And this puts you into distress. You look at her, what are you going to do? And the drugs are readily available because they go through the back doors, the streets, and they are fed. So I have seen this affecting our women, their families, and the kids who are coming. And this really inspired me when I was celebrating my 30th birthday to start an elementary school, because I felt that the children born out of the center with this challenged neighborhood, what happens after this beautiful postnatal and child growth development as a health facility. And I felt that we should establish an elementary school that can protect and provide the care beyond maternal care. And we started a school, and hopefully someday the school will be a beaming example of how to address those issues in this community.
It sounds wonderful. And it's
Thank you.
yeah. And before we finish, I want to get your coordinates to write down how people can reach you in case in case somebody with resources is listening or watching and they want to send you some. So, just like the midwife in Australia who read about you in the magazine and showed up. You never know what can come of things like this.
Exactly. By the way, I had this gentleman. His name is Rick. He comes from Maine. He comes from your place. He's been here before. He supported us. At some point, I think he supported when we started with the $10,000 the Australian midwife came with. He sent us $5,000, and I think it's been once in a while it's been supported. His name is Rick Mira, and I really I have typed this name on that. This thing, it comes from Maine, and it's been wonderful. And he's been visited the center twice, and it's been really of full support. So people who can reach us can be able to contact us through a Fremo Medical Center on Facebook. They can write an email on how through the Fremo Medical Center Gmail, or they can also reach me through the email moffat2000us at yahoomail.com. So I think you can be able, because all the details are on the Facebook page. If people want to donate, they can be able to reach out on the Fremo Medical and Path Center on Facebook. We've given all the details on how they can donate, and we have a partnership with Midwife Pilgrim. It's in Vermont. Are you far from Vermont?
No, we're very close to Vermont.
Yes, I have a midwife by the name Rora Moro, who organizes and brings Frontier Midwife. We remember she's midwife Pilgrim. If the easiest way, like the people from the US can donate, because it's a deductible non-government organization, tax deductible, they can send their donation to Midwife Pilgrim, and they indicate that it's for Fremo. And that money, all of them comes to the center, because you realize we attach a little fee to the care we provide. And sometimes, like we had these women we rescue, sometimes we put them at a shelter in our local school, and later we let them go. So during the postpartum, remember, it's a very difficult time and a vulnerable time. So the donation will go through Path Essentials. Also, can pay a woman who cannot pay for her care during care. They can provide food for the children at school and for the women who are in care. Unfortunately, last week our van was going to pick a woman and a baby was convulsing. It was involved in a grease accident, and it was totally written off. Now, as we speak, we cannot be able to transfer women or pick any emergencies. We are depending on hiring, which is expensive. Sometimes you can encounter up to $100 per day, which is going now to diminish our care if money is going to be taken to that. So people can reach us, and any midwife who would love to enjoy this normal birth, who wants to enjoy this normal care of safety. Midwives are trained to be the first primary caregivers of uh, women in labor. But I can tell you, some women can tell you they are practicing in hospitals. They have never seen a normal birth. The doctors, the obstetricians that are in charge, they're just like a patient attendants. So when you are an old age, when you want to vacate, come. Kenya is a beautiful country. You can go to safari. You can come and work, visit the center and share all you wanted to accomplish with caring your fellow women.
Wonderful. Wonderful. I imagine that some of our um, family medicine doctors would probably enjoy coming to see what you're doing at your clinic also. The sadness is the the general practice doctors here, some of whom do deliver babies, they have, as you said, they have no awareness of normal birth. They've never seen one, and and midwifery presence is very minimal here in our hospital, and I imagine that people would really enjoy coming to Kenya and visiting your center and vacationing a little bit. And I may in fact take you up on that at some point because I've always wanted to come to Africa and see it. So who knows? Maybe I'll.
Make a point. I mean, maybe it's a start like Vicky from Australia because it's a beautiful country. We don't have winter. You can get your visa at the airport. So you don't have to go all these processes. And then we have rooms for volunteers that are self-contained. They have beds, they have electricity, they have water, and they have the internet. So you can, and we have some shopping malls. Maybe somebody can go and rest. We have Kenya is the Nairobi is the only capital city in the world that has a national park in the city.
Oh my!
And
How about that?
yeah, we have Nairobi National Park is in the city, and we have so many places which we can enjoy one-on-one with wildlife. We have the elephant sanctuary. We have this is where the rescued elephants are put. If an elephant, the mother dies or the mother involved in an accident, they are rescued and put to Nairobi, where you can go and see them and talk to them and feed them. Also, we have a Chiravi Center where the giraffes are. You can also have fun with them. We have Mamba Village where you can have crocodiles. It's a beautiful place, and it's we call it the city on in the sun.
How nice.
Yes.
Um, I wondered how hard is it for you to find doctors and midwives to work there? I imagine the salaries are probably lower than than in some places. Is it hard?
Well, the biggest challenge we have is I mean it's big. It's challenge. You remember we have a lot of brain drain from Africa. If you go to most hospitals in the UK, in Australia, and in the US, you'll find so many Africans and Kenyans who are moving to work there because they are going to be paid good money. And also, yeah, it's a big challenge because when you have a center like Ofimo, the resources are very scarce. It's a low risk place. And trying to afford the money to keep these doctors going, it's a big challenge. So it becomes a challenge. You only are so lucky to have the few who have dedicated their care with compassion and passion to be able to withstand the challenges uh, of the day to continue working. It's something I've always felt like even we can have donations coming to support our medical staff, not only with their salaries, but also to help them pursue and got more education and then come back to give to the community. And sometimes also our staff remember they are overworked. That's why we feel like when the midwives come from the West, they can be relieved in a way so that they can have a break or a little vacation because we can not afford to have enough to give them on vacation, not even come bring some people for locums to stand for them. It's a big task. It's a daunting task.
Well, I just want to say how impressed I am with what you're doing, and um, to thank you for coming on the podcast. And I hope um, someone sends you some resources.
I
'Cause
hope, who knows, nature
who
is going
knows?
to conspire.
That is true. That is true.
Yeah.
We're all under resourced in working with indigenous communities and indigenous people, and
Hmm.
we're all out there looking for resources, and hopefully someone will send some. And yeah, so um, anything else you want to, any last words you'd like to offer people and sort of
Well, I think I'm so happy to have this opportunity to talk to your people. I think with all this technology, with all this podcast, we can share. We are one, cultures meet, and we are humans at their best when we reach for each other, share culture, embrace each other, and love one another. And the reason why I'm doing this, when I feel like that as a human person, despite the challenges, you need to stand up for your people, for humanity, for the vulnerable, and to be for them to get what you wanted to get when you never wanted. So remember, I was a recipient of poor medical care, but how I feel nourished every day when I see patients walking from this center well diagnosed, got getting good treatment. My wife became a recipient of improper care. And when I see these women, hundreds of them every year, surviving, beautiful, and being strong and healthy to survive to raise their children, what else could have I done? And for all whatever we do, let us focus on humanity because at the core of our life and survival is for brotherhood, sisterhood, and the best for all humanity.
thank you. That was so well said. And thank you for being on the podcast.